Digging into my 3-day pack, which I packed up probably a year or so ago. It's a Camelback mother load, and it's a few years old, so there might be a new model of it by now. Basically, I pulled it apart in the first video, and now I'm going to dig into some of the packs that I pulled out. I guess first off, I'll go into the one that I'm probably going to get the most response from. It's a lighter, a couple of cigars, and a pack of cigarettes, and it's nothing else. I just keep it in this little, probably a sunglass case or something that's made out of red nylon. Has a couple of different attachment points on it and a zipper. Keep these because in an emergency situation I might want a damn cigarette, or I might want a cigar, so I just figure I'd rather have them. They don't weigh much, and if I don't need them I can barter them, but I'd rather have them and not use them than want one and not have it, or have to trade for an arm and a leg to get a hold of a cigarette. In any case, that might have some controversy, but so be it. Next, a little sub kit that I have. I just got poked by it, so I'm guessing this is probably some tools and gear. First off, there's a gallon Ziploc bag, and it's got a big long, basically this was a parachute that I got a while back, so not just 550 cord, but a parachute. So I took a few of the strands, looks like I took 3 strands, and just did a simple braid to bring them down to this more manageable shape, length, and that's basically 3 equal lengths of 550 cord, and I forget how long it is, but whatever the dimension is between where they cut a parachute and the canopy. Then I've got a bunch of zip ties inside of a bag that's sort of an old ammunition bag that you get these cheap out of catalogs sometimes, and there's a thin strip of lead or something tin here, so you can use these bags to sort of hold loose parts and stuff. So that's what I do. I've got some screws in this one, some aggressive drywall screws that are very useful out in the woods for assembling a more sturdy shelter, and then a few more that are all Phillips, because I find that's a little easier to deal with than a straight screw, and these are sheet metal screws. So if you have to do something with a sign, perhaps nailing it or screwing a sign to some wood that you find. Anyway, I figured having a few screws doesn't weigh that much, so I put them in here. Like I say, I'm evaluating this, so I might change some of that out. I think I might add some more wire. Currently, I think I'd rather have wire over screws, but let's see what else is in this bag. So that's the first gallon bag. And my whole idea with these sub packs is to be able to pull something out, be familiar enough with my gear to be able to pull something out, keep my pack separate, zip up the pack again. These things usually can be attached or put into a pocket and sort of compartmentalized so I can use them as necessary. So the first thing I pulled out is quite a bit of 1-inch red webbing, and I think this is the best stuff. I'm a big fat guy, so if I get stuck on the bottom floor and I can't get up a stairway or something, all the help I can get to help pull myself out of there. So this is much stronger than 550 cord. Takes up a little bit more room, but it's nice to have some strong webbing to be able to do some kind of climbing or rappelling. Next, I've got some military tripwire I think, solid wire with just a painted insulator, so basically non-insulated, I suppose. It's on a wooden spool, so there's probably lighter weight ways to go, but I think I got these for 50 cents at a surplus store, so I figured I'd use them. I haven't actually busted into them to actually use them, so I don't know if the wire's too brittle or not, but like I mentioned, I like having disposable wire to use for shelters and setting up traps and stuff. Then I re-rolled some duct tape a while back onto these sardine keys, so that basically I'm left with a roll of duct tape with a little eyelet on it that I've used to tie it together with some 550 to this wire. And again, this way hopefully things don't get lost as easily. I have an old Leatherman Wave here that I don't use so much, and it's basically a medium duty multi-tool. It's nice because the blades and things are accessible without the pliers being open. This one's broken and the blade is missing, but this is inside the sub pack. It's not my first line of tool, but it's just an extra tool to have around. and maybe a replacement if I were to lose a tool in an emergency situation. Looks like I had a little sewing kit that sort of busted open, and it's sort of a junky one that somebody probably gives away or a hotel gave away, so not a real good one. I'd probably do a more substantial sewing kit in the future. So this was sort of some hardware, some shelter building materials, some trap building materials, potentially rescue materials. My way of thinking on a 3-day pack is that you're probably not going to necessarily go, you know, to some jungle paradise where you're catching fish and snaring buffalo to eat. I think you're more than likely to be stuck in some sort of a tent city or a hotel that's been converted into a refugee area. So I think having some ability to just do minor repairs, you know, be a handyman, I think that's sort of the mindset I have for a 3-day pack. Something that's going to make me comfortable in a situation where, you know, a piece of wire or some duct tape might make all the difference between getting yelled at all night and having a night, you know, pleasant sleep. So next up is a Molly pack or pouch that's 2, maybe 3 wide and then 5 tall. And I don't know who makes it. I'm pretty sure it's a cheap one. It doesn't, well, actually it's all double stitch. We'll take a look at who makes it. It's Condor, so it's, you know, medium quality. Doesn't seem to be used too much. I barely just got it, and I guess that's why I left it in here. I'm definitely not a fan of these that snake through and then just snap. It's pretty weak, so that's why it's stuck in my, you know, sort of emergency kit. But the ability of having this Molly pouch here is I could put this on the back of the mother load where it lives. You know, I could have this down here on someplace on the side maybe if I decided I was going to need this sub kit more handy, more readily. And what we're looking at is, again, more tools and that kind of thing. Basically backup supplies. So there's some elastic straps, and I've got some re-rolled duct tape here on a piece of 550, so ideally, you know, I can not drop it, put it on a hook, hand it to somebody, throw it to somebody. There's some 550 that I'm not going to pull out that's in a spool. Looks like quite a bit of it. I've got some, I think these are Swedish or Swiss bandages that are sort of vacuum sealed, sort of like a military bandage though. And then some vacuum sealed gloves, latex gloves, probably 2 or 3 pairs it feels like. And then another one of these military sealed bandages from Europe somewhere. Then I've got this sort of pouch that you sell everywhere for 10 bucks. In the back here I've got this sort of mini crowbar. Notice I bought this for $2. It's a Stanley at a used hardware store. You know, definitely if you got a used hardware store in your area, check it out. These go for 10 or 15 bucks or more online from the fancy companies. It's every bit as good as a little fancy EOD one. It's just that it only cost me $2. And then I like Lineman Pliers. They're real strong. These are cheap ones. If I had my way, I'd probably upgrade these with a nice set of US made ones. They're getting kind of rusty, but the idea being that they're strong enough to beat on something, they're strong enough to break barbed wire, you know, but they're also good enough pliers to do, you know, work on a car or in a phone system or something if you had to. Next I've got a little carabiner with an LED light that's blue. I figured in this circumstance it might be good to have something besides red all the time, so this is just a blue LED on a little carabiner so that it can be hung on gear or hung on some pal's webbing or something. Sort of a cheap way to be able to have a quick light. You can use it as a signal light perhaps. And then I got some OD green zip ties in here. Nothing else in this pouch, so definitely not liking this pouch so much. It's kind of stupid, so we'll have to evaluate this one a little bit more. Maybe either go into a toolkit with it or into a first aid kit, but it's in the between there. So then I do have this little pouch thing, and again another blue LED from Comm. This one's got an outside pocket. They don't have anything in. And then on the inside it's got a pocket that's separated into 2 here, and then it's got some like pen separator things here and a big pouch in the back. This is my fine tools and whatnot. One of these smaller crowbars or pry bars, and again $3. I didn't pay a lot for this one. We've got a handcuff key and a set of fine tools there. Then we've got an extendable thing with a clip on it, which is handy. An extendable thing with a magnet on it. and then an extendable thing with a mirror on it. And these I found, you know, I used to use them when I did some air conditioning repairs and stuff back in the day. There's just so many uses for these kind of things. I mean, obviously lighting a match, you know, distance from a flame source is always nice. You know, I used them for lighting water heaters, but you know, out in a survival situation, there's probably a lot of ways I think that these could be handy. They're not right out on top where I'm going to need them. I'm not unrealistic about it, but if I do need them, I can dig in and find them. I keep sort of a cheap knife on this side. I may upgrade this with a nicer one. It's sort of a rip-off of a Spyderco, it looks like. Really cheap, but lightweight, and I figure it's a good sacrificial blade if I needed to pry something, although it's probably not very strong. I do keep a couple of small fancy pry bars from comm, and honestly I don't know why. It's sort of redundant when I have this other one in here, so I'll probably rethink that. I keep a fine set of scissors. You never know when you're going to need a nice set of scissors. Nice hemostat. It's fairly strong. It's insulated in case I have to do something with a phone system or whatnot, trying to get something to work. A pick with the covers over the edges, but again, you never know when you need to pick something out of a wound or do some fine work. A couple of more fine tools here, and then a comm light. Again, this one's on a clip so I can leave it in the pack, and then another one on this little strap thingy that they give you for keys or whatever. Again, this way I figure this one's red, I can use it, keep my night vision, and if I needed to use these tools. There's a larger pocket in back, and in there I keep a decent saw, a wire saw. I have no idea if this is going to show up well in the video or not. And I'd probably move this to a toolkit. This is like barbed wire or like concertina wire. This is the best saw I've ever really found. Haven't used it too much, but it's just so aggressive that I figure this is probably one of the better saws out there for this style of pocket wire saw. Anyway, I keep it in here because I figure that's going to be the most secure for it, to keep it nice and flat. And then along with it I have a Fresnel Lens for starting fires. It's also handy if you have a little splinter or something and you need to get a better look, you know, in an emergency situation. It's nice to have the ability to magnify occasionally. And that's all that's in this little pouch.